All right, Mao. Take us
Me?
home. Take us home.
Country road. No. So
Free to play. I belong.
Anthem recently came out, and it was poorly received.
Yeah, critically for sure.
Yeah, critically,
I've seen
definitely.
mixed reviews for the most part, but
Well, I mean, I say poor received, but I think it's around like a 6-ish, like mid 6 as a game, which
the games
isn't
in general
the worst,
tend to average
but
at 7.
yeah, it's with the weirdness of like numeric or the number system. It's pretty bad for review. Considering it's a AAA by BioWare and everything.
Yeah,
they definitely would have wanted a higher review. But so yeah, a lot of the disappointment out of the game is the end game, because a lot of people say it's the base, like playing through the story, leveling up. It's a fun game, but when you reach the end, that's it. Which, I mean, a lot of times, or I mean, traditional games, that's fine. But with this, that is kind of, you're still, the intention is that you're going to keep playing it because this is a game as a service. Which, I just want to talk about games.
It's a big buzzword now.
Yeah,
it's a huge buzzword.
Yeah, well,
I can hear
a buzz
the bees.
phrase, I guess.
I can hear the bees all around me.
Right. And just kind of get our thoughts on, how, games as a service. What do we think about them?
You guys are, or at least at one point, were big proponents of Destiny as well. So
yeah,
maybe you can talk about your experiences with that.
I'm more okay with games as a service than I might have been a couple years ago, to be honest. I think it depends mainly on the customer service, for lack of a better term, of the parent company of the game. So, like, original Destiny, when it first came out, was a little meh, but I didn't play it initially then. I joined in about the time that
and it was not anything amazing.
But about the time that House of Wolves dropped, was when I jumped in, and then I got sucked into it. Like, I was playing that thing.
The big thing about Destiny is, like, the gunplay is pretty top notch. Like, even base game. But, like, the rest of the game was lackluster.
Yeah. But I mean, like, I could have fun doing repeat content because of that gameplay. Because the gunplay was so fine-tuned, I had no problem going through the same maps.
And there was really enough. Like, by the time you get to year 2, year 2, like, there's really enough content to keep you going. Like,
exactly. And even if you get bored on something, you can go back and do something else that you haven't done for a while or something.
Yeah.
And they had weekly tasks, the Nightfall and all that,
Like, it definitely seems like the same thing, especially with the shooters, especially. Like, the release is always, like, sketchy at best. Like,
yeah.
And now, like, after, after Destiny and The Division, especially, like, you got Fallout 76 and now Anthem, who are just like, they should have been able to learn some lesson, right? Like,
yeah, I mean, like I'm more willing to be forgiving of lack of content because it's brand new. But if the gameplay sucks, if the gameplay is like including, when I say gameplay, I don't just mean the mechanics, but I also mean the progression. Like if you're gonna have something where you're setting me up and I've hit top level in the first 5 hours I'm playing, and then I'm not having anything to do with that top level, then what was the point of me hitting top level?
Yeah. But, like, you shouldn't should you be expected to pay $60 for a game that doesn't feel like it's got enough
worth
to
it
play?
Yeah, I think and that's where it's hard for me, because like what's the turnaround, right? Paying a monthly subscription, like at some point I'm playing, like even if they were to charge like 10, like I don't know, let's say Netflix prices and charge $10 a month roughly. if I play the game for more than 6 months, then yeah, I'd rather them just charge $60. But if I'm going to be bored and only really play it for like a week, maybe I might be more keen on that subscription.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but also games like League of Legends and stuff fall into this category too, right?
Yes, but so yeah, I think the free to play games as a service tend to be. I mean, there are plenty of garbage ones, but there are plenty of good
even
ones.
Stuff like For Honor, I guess, to an extent, because it has like seasons and stuff.
Yeah, like at a base level, anything with a season pass is basically a.
And it's not just
a game as
DLC
a service.
for the game.
Final Fantasy 15.
Yeah, Final 15 is exactly a game as a service.
Yeah,
like
that's
amount
Square
of stuff,
saying they were going to.
Like when you get tons of like updates to things, like when it's like mixing in free updates and paid updates, like you really start to get into that region of it's something to extend the life of a game outside of just doing like one or two big expansions.
So on that note, I am more okay with games as a service when it is in an MMO type thing, right? Like it's a social service and you're paying for the ability to use their servers to play with other people that otherwise
you might not be using their servers.
Well, you know what I mean.
For Honor.
Right. But but when we go to like a solo game or single player games like Final Fantasy 15, games as a service is much more of a no-no to me. Like if you're selling me a game that only I'm playing, unless you're like each installation is legitimately adding like tons of content, just maybe charge me the whatever to buy it as DLC, but I don't want it as a games as a service.
That's basically what it is at that point, I guess. It is just basically DLC. It's just lots of DLC, I guess.
Right, but at some point, right, like if it's lots of DLC, just package it together in one big thing, and rather than nickel and dime,
like an expansion pack or something.
Right, rather than charging me $20 for something that really you could cram the next 3 together, and it would be $30 with all 3. Just do that, But they're also businesses, and I understand that it's a business practice that works,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just depends on the content for me, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Like MMOs, I mean, that's obviously the model they live and die on is subscription based, like tier, slow dripping out of content. I don't mind that. At this point, that's a different model.
2 MMOs, right?
Yeah, 14 and WoW.
Yeah,
essentially are the big ones. But even like, and I don't buy a lot of like DLC add-ons, but for the recent games that I've really loved and enjoyed, like Final Fantasy 15, when Kingdom Hearts 3 stuff comes out, I'll buy all that stuff too. I'm sure. I mean, depending on what it is, if it's like
Nora, I think is not quite up to. I think he's a few years behind because he's just like he's always like head down in his games. So I think we're only just hitting like the last gen of gameplay style. So
yeah,
I expect just DLC, not like I don't expect Kingdom Hearts to be a game as a service.
I want to come back to depressed Nomura as a potential topic, but because I find it fascinating. But anyways,
why release the fully functional game when you can add microtransactions and hopefully you'll get more updates as it goes on?
That's the part that's bad that I don't like.
Yeah, I mean, not all of them have microtransactions. No Man's Sky is definitely something that has been maintained as a service and has gotten considerably better as far as I know.
But like CSGOs
not
well received.
Your CSGOs, your Overwatches, that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
I was just gonna say that I think the other thing too is how predatory is service.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's how shady is the way that they're presenting it. I have no problem really with it in general, right? Like it is a business model. I understand.
Yeah. You're okay with the concept.
Yeah, it's just don't act like an evil corporation that I'm going to find.
When lots of kids are stealing their mom's credit cards to buy stuff, that's when you know you've gone too far.
Battlefield 5, I believe, DICE was promised. They promised to like maintain it and stuff, and then just just everything they did made it worse, and it never became good. Like Destiny 1 became quite good, I would say. Then they came out with Destiny 2 and decided to wipe the slate.
It's
but now
apparently
we're
getting better.
back to being good again. It was good for a bit, and then they had a lull, and now it's back to good, I guess, again. So,
Well, of course.
and Tets is a robot again.
Four Tets. It's just one of those nuts.
Division 2 actually might be one of the first in that style of game that may have actually finally learned from everything that came before it. From I played the beta and everything, I understand. Like
people watch that game.
They weren't changing they changed some things, but not enough to really.
Yeah.
They didn't pull a Destiny basically.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if people are willing to pay for whatever, I guess if they don't think it's worth it, they're not going to pay for it. So I'm guessing, I really don't have a problem with games as a service on the whole, but it does just come down to more of that, predatory, predatory microtransactions, 10 minutes of DLC for, $20, crap like that's where...
before we get off, go on, did Tats you back?
Yeah.
Okay, did you have more to say?
I don't remember what I was saying when I kind of roboted at that point, but I did actually have something to disagree with what Obs just said just now.
Go on.
All right.
About how people will pay money only if they think it's worth it, and that, to a degree, there has kind of become this thought process of, well, what else is there? If I don't pay for this, I'm just not going to have any games at all. And that's not okay to me. I don't know.
What do you mean?
I forgot the exact way that Obs had said just a moment ago.
I said, if it's not worth it, then people won't pay for it, essentially, to them.
Yeah. And while, yes, that's true to a certain extent, I feel like people will also be like, well, I would normally say no, but there's no alternatives. And because the whole games industry is doing this, I guess I have to do this if I want to be a gamer, if I want to play with my friends.
Those people ain't looking hard enough.
Right. Well,
we ain't at Event Horizon yet, boys.
Yeah, and there's truth to that statement as well. But
it depends though. It depends on how invested you are in maybe a game style or a franchise. You want more Destiny 1, you can't go elsewhere for it. You're stuck with Destiny 2, what it's done.
But I mean, say you want a really good first-person shooter. What options do you have besides these new MMO FPSs?
Go back and play Halo 2.
With who? Who's gonna play Halo?
All your buddies you played with growing up.
Right. I mean, and I'm playing the devil's advocate, of course, but there is kind of that mindset, and that kind of goes back to that predatory practice because they're making these things the norm. They are the norm to those that are just now really coming into being, fully fledged gamers that are able to, standing on their own. And so they don't think that there's anything wrong with spending these crazy amounts of money on this stuff because we're known before. And to a degree, the opposite's true of us because we knew these other times were a little bit set in our ways.
This is why games preservation is so important, Teds. It's just one of the many reasons. Sadly, servers cost money to run.
Yeah. To go back to Anthem, I guess. It's a lot of people are saying it's kind of another one of those unfinished games. But, it's not worth it. But how much do you have to include? What makes it worth it? It's so Time to Beat has anywhere from 15 to 30 hours to beat the story, which is, by most people's accounts, the good part of it. Or the story and leveling up.
That seems shorter than I thought it would be for a BioWare game, but...
Right, but there are plenty of games that those are completely reasonable times that you will pay $60 for.
Is right in that range. I think my God of War file was a little over 20 hours, maybe.
Yeah.
That was worth $60 to me. I didn't feel ripped off.
Right. If I spent, 20 hours on this game, like, was it enough that I only spent or got the 20 hours out of it, even though there's sort of like a social contract almost, or like an understanding that I'm supposed to be getting more, like an ongoing experience out of this game.
Yep. I think it kind of goes back to everybody's subjectivity to what's, fun, how much is your time worth. But B, too, how, you kind of hit it on the head there when how much have we been promised?
Right.
Like, that I'm going to sell this product for $60.
Yep. Robot.
Yeah, you roboted out again, Tits. Like God, poor Tits.
All right, can you hear me?
Okay.
Yeah, keep going.
You're told that you're going to pay $60, but you're going to be able to play with your friends, and you're going to keep having fun, and you're just going to be able to jump in and do all these things. And then there ends up, you can, but it's just 3 revolving items that you do. And there's that disingenuity that also plays on that. Well, this isn't fun, partially because
it feels like a hit against it. Like,
right, but you're also getting that negative because they promised more than, or they felt like they promised more than what they presented. And that letdown can be conscious or unconscious, but it still affects the value you get out of your every minute you play.
Yeah. And we probably come with it because we grew up with, like, as consoles were evolving, and so, like, I remember playing my NES when I was 4, but it's one of my earliest memories.
To the way, like, of the Gen 1 and 2 consoles? Like,
no, not at all.
What get released is what you get, good and bad.
Like, it's like we kind of have it really good right now. That games are like kind of like always living. Like that's like pretty cool when you think about it compared to like spending $60 for an NES game that you beat in 3 hours.
I mean, games, it's very interesting. Like, games have always been like $60 basically.
Yeah, and that was $60 back then.
Right. Like, after inflation and stuff, like, games have only gotten cheaper for people.
Oh yeah, games have never been cheaper to play.
But I mean, they cost more, but that's not necessarily a good argument for like doing these type of being necessarily more predatory, because I mean, you can kind of make it up in volume now because the group of like people buying these games is so much bigger these days.
And now all the most popular games are the free games. So
right. I saw some people arguing that, or at least one person argued, and then there was like a chain of people like sort of agreeing and disagreeing about, like, if a game ever gets stuff added to it, it is an unfinished game. Like,
oh wow, that's pretty extreme.
Yeah.
But
I mean, by
it's being semantical, but yes, by definition, it is technically an unfinished game because things are always being added to it. When is a thing finished? But at the same time, it's like you kind of know what they mean.
Yeah. Right, yeah. I mean, like, Monster Hunter came out.
I think you cut out again, Ted.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no.
Yep, you did.
Like, Monster Hunter came out, and I would say that was it's had additions, free content. It's basically a game as a service, done pretty well, I would say. And it was a complete game at release.
Yeah.
Like, maybe a little sparse on some things when you compare older Monster Hunter games, but
yeah, you got to give it the eye test essentially. Like, that's obviously a way more complete game than Anthem, judging by people's response to it. So,
yeah. So I guess, I mean, is this just the way the future's going to go though? Like,
it's just where we're at, man.
In
at least for
the AAA
future.
world, at least, like, you're still going to have indie games. Like, I mean, in somewhat, like, I mean, with the free-to-play games like Warframe, Path of Exile, League of Legends, and then, of course, Fortnite, are definitely here. But
I don't see those going away anytime soon.
No, you don't.
It's just
curious. I guess, are we just going to keep getting? It's just like you keep seeing a lot of the same problems with, at least in like the MMO style games, I guess, like the MMO light style games, and I'm just curious if people end up getting fed up with them, and they'll end up fading away, or
I could see the looter shooter going away for sure.
yeah, and not even looter shooter, because I mean it was I guess because Diablo, not question, it's not a looter shooter, but
I was gonna say looter shooter I think could stick around, but probably in the single player realm.
Yeah, I mean
Like,
Borderlands was
right.
Yeah.
I expect Borderlands 3 to be way more games as a service, but
That's true.
if it ever comes out.
I think the battle royale style.
How much is that just because that's the trend right now? And
yeah, I'm just curious how long this will, like, is this just the future of gaming period, or if it's just a fad style thing?
Yeah, I think it's here to stay for the foreseeable future.
Right.
I don't know what model replaces it that makes more sense from a business perspective.
Yeah, a lot of these games like still end up being profitable, though not necessarily as profitable as one might like. Hence why Activision like split with Bungie, over Destiny. But also, reviews get a little weirder, I guess, with these style. Like,
you'll often see annotations and updates to them.
Yeah, or sometimes you won't, and then they just kind of end up being useless because, like,
yeah, exactly.
Someone who reviewed Destiny at release, like, if someone was looking to get into year 2 or 3, like, looking at those old reviews would just
get nothing.
Just so bad, like,
yeah.
But I mean, some people are like, well, should they get points because like it's probably going to be better later? But I mean that seems a bit much.
Yeah.
Shouldn't that seems like a poor decision, but like I definitely saw Anthem reviews though that they didn't give them points for it. It's still like, hey, it's a 67 out of 100, but I mean I could definitely see this being a lot better in the future.
I feel like that's much more like true, like right, like that's much more. This is the current state of the game, but again, the problem is, are they going to update it later when the game changes?
Yeah, at least, with these kind of games that are, promised to be games as a service up front, should definitely be at least cognizant of it, like,
yeah,
at least say, hey, this could definitely be better, or I don't see how this, like, Fallout 76, I don't see how this is going to get any better.
There's no redeeming that. It's done.
Right.
When it hit, like, $20 after a few weeks of it being out.
When they were giving it away with used controllers in Germany. Like,
oh wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, Germany's GameStop was giving away free copies if you bought a used controller.
Please take this. It's taking up space.
That is amazing.
Oh man.
Mm-hmm. I think like I don't know how to quite to say. like part of me too, right? Like it's like with reviewers, to a degree there's some level of they're paid, right? Like paid reviewers. And I feel like as a game as a service, as a business model, if you're gonna pay a reviewer to review your games at the beginning, you might want to pay them to revisit it, and that might fix things. Like I don't know.
Yeah, something to look at.
It just depends. Like, it depends on how you like. Me as a trained journalist, to be objective, if I was reviewing a game like that for a major publication, then I would definitely go back and re-review it because that's the most. I want to say that's the most shows the most integrity to do, but it's certainly being the most like objective about it.
Yeah, it's open. Kind of. You're kind of playing as intended, I guess, right? Like,
right.
You don't play. What's another good example of like? I don't know. Yeah, just
you want to go back and re-review like Tales of Berseria again.
Oh yeah,
but you would like an Anthem, obviously, or Destiny 2. Particularly when like big expansions drop and stuff, because that's when you get a lot of the good updates.
Yeah.
So, whether it be addendum or just a new review that like links back to the old one, and vice versa. No, go out and play the best game as a service. Battle Royale game, or what I hear, Tetris 99. Have you watched anyone stream that?
No.
It's pretty funny when they start out. I want to get it because I haven't got it yet because I've been playing Final Fantasy and generally been sick. But
Wait, what is this?
Tetris Battle
Tetris
Royale.
Battle Royale game.
Only on the Switch
Tetris
eShop
99,
right
I
now.
think. It's,
It's you playing Tetris Attack versus
Tetris.
99 other people. It's so funny when you start off and everyone just immediately gangs up on you. When that randomly happens to the one person, and they just go, and get like blasted out with garbage. It's pretty funny.
Yeah, all right. Well, I think that wraps up our discussion on that.
Shane Meta wasn't here. I think he would have had a lot to say about that.
Yeah, a lot of the topics I've thought of I have pocketed are all discussion topics, and I'm like, well, that's it. Matt is gonna have to miss this one.
Yeah. We'll just make fun of him next week about it. Well, we're getting close to our 2-year anniversary.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
In like 2 weeks, I believe.
Yes, I believe that is accurate. Yep.
Yep.
That'll be your 2-year.
Yep. All right. This has been episode 76 of Podcast of 5 Rings, your source of alignment. They're all video games, tabletop, anime, film, and tech. Each episode of Podcast of 5 Rings releases Monday mornings on iTunes and SoundCloud and Talk About Topic day by day on YouTube, with the full video releasing on Friday. Check us out on social media at Twitter, Podcast5R, Facebook, P5R Podcast, Bad Lily Stream, twitch.tv/PSO Flow. And I won't belabor the point because my voice is done. We will see you guys next time. Goodbye.
Bye.
Later.